Hi everyone, I'm Saleha and this is Chai, Chat and Community. Tonight we are talking about volunteering and from tomorrow it's volunteering week. Did you know that there are nearly 6 million volunteers in Australia? If you are one of them, like Param and I are, then you know the joy of giving back to the community. It's not that we have a lot of time in hand, we just have your hearts in our mind. Meet my guest tonight, Param Artuthanathan, who has done many interesting work in the community and continues to do so. I met him, I think, last month, couple of months ago, at the Victorian Multicultural Commission's first meeting, where we are both regional advisory council members, and we got talking, and I found him very interesting, so invited him to Chai Chat and Community. But before I introduce you to Param, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting tonight, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Thank you for joining me, Param. Very happy to have you with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me along.
Pleasure. So, you've done volunteering and a lot of it from a very young age. So, tell us something about yourself, please.
Something about myself. Well, I like gardening. It's a random thing. Quite often when I talk to people, they hate it. They keep telling me how annoying it is, and I'm like,
Yep.
that's so fun.
Yeah,
That's so
it's like,
fun.
oh,
Um,
if I,
and I like to do a whole lot of random things, and that's probably how I got started when I was volunteering as well. I like to try different things basically, and I think when just reflecting a short while ago, I didn't even realize I was volunteering until it came up in conversation sometime later. I was just doing things that I was enjoying and wanted to get involved in. So um, yeah.
so going back to gardening, what is it about gardening that you like? I do a lot of planting in
Yeah.
summers and spring, but hate the weeding part of it.
Yeah.
And no amount of mulch really cures it.
It's I think it's the whole being outdoors, the fresh air. I grew up in Singapore, so it's very tropical. It's very
Yeah,
comfortable to be outdoors all the time, and it's sort of an ongoing project that didn't you don't need to dedicate a lot of time to it. You can skip a day here and there, and then you
yeah,
still see the results at the end of it. You can it's kind of your creation, and it's nice to see that when nature enjoys it as well. The butterflies come and the birds
yeah,
come, and you're enjoying it. I think it's quite just quite a wholesome activity, and I found myself doing quite a lot of it during COVID as well, which it really helped when everyone was in isolation and I was doing what I loved. So in some ways, when I was doing that, it was like everything was normal anyway. Um,
very
so
therapeutic.
very therapeutic, yeah. If you're into it, when it's winter here, I don't find myself enjoying it as much, but uh, there's still bits that you can do indoors, plants and so on. Yeah, and I think what I found amusing was when I was quite young, my mom was telling me about how someone had planted that tree, and it was about 20 meters high at that point when she was telling me this story. So that idea of continuity, as well. You can leave your mark on something. You
Yeah,
can sell a house, but the thing you planted will still be there. Yeah.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so I mean that's not why I'm interested in it. I just kind of like the idea that you grow things, you know exactly what you put into it, no fertilizers, no weed, no weed killer and so on. But all that came a bit later, just aside from I think it was all those mimosa weeds, I think, that got me interested. You step on it and it closes. And then
Yeah.
there were those 4 o'clock flowers that kind of bloomed every day at a certain time, so I just found those things amusing and got into that. I don't spend a whole heap of time doing it now, but still something I enjoy quite a bit.
Great. So you came to Australia as an international student.
Yeah.
What is it that you saw? And what did you learn from your days as an international student?
Yeah, so I came to Australia just over 18 years ago. So things were a bit different then. Um, and I think everyone goes through some degree of cultural shock. For me, it was I came from Singapore, and the first thing that hit me was internet was at snail's pace here. They were still using dial-up, and we weren't using high-speed internet. Um, First couple of days, I took the train. I got out at Coalfield Station, and I'm like, what is this place? It's covered with bird poop everywhere. It's looks like it's 100 years old. Um, then I went to buy my phone, and I looked at what was available in the shops, and I'm like, this is a few generations old.
Yeah.
So, I felt a bit nervous, like, what have I signed up to? Before, and I was one of those people who hadn't traveled to Australia before I actually arrived as a student. So first week especially, I was, oh no, what have I done? Like, the marketing was really good, but so I was really nervous, mostly a bit disappointed with what I was seeing in front of me. There was the big sale. The university was fantastic, but just everything else, I wasn't so comfortable with. But then I realized it was, those bits were a bit confronting, but once you get used to it, I realized there was actually really good stuff as well. And I was talking to a bunch of students about this recently. There's all these other positives that you're hit with, and you don't expect, like, how fresh was the air? Like 20 years ago, there was a lot less people as well. So, I can't imagine being in a city and still having that level of, good quality air. We get such good produce in Australia as well, food and vegetables, at quite a reasonable price. That was I wouldn't say really exciting, but it was very comforting. Knowing that you'll be eating well and so on.
And the
And of
sky is blue. I come
Sky
from
is
India. The
blue.
sky is never blue.
You see the stars.
Yeah.
And then as a young 20-something-year-old guy, I was really happy about the price of cars relative to Singapore. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
get myself one of those." And
Yeah.
fuel was under $1 then. So there were all these things that got me really excited as well. So I think quite often we always talk about the negative things, and sure, there was a lot of them, and I can go on and on about them as well. But there was also the list of really positive things that I did not expect. so
So
yeah, that was a while
now
ago
you
now.
work at, yep, sorry. So you work in the university, and
Yeah.
while you were a student at Monash, you founded the O Group. So
Yeah, no,
can you
well,
tell
I
us?
did. I didn't found it, but I started as a non-executive director, and then I
Okay.
became the chairperson for a good 6 years altogether, I think. So the O Group really was a set of businesses that was owned by the student association that I was the president of. Um, at its peak, I think it was valued. We got an independent valuation once, and it was worth about 10 to 15 million, depending on
Whoa.
the lower or high end. Yeah, so it encompassed a whole range of stuff, like 10 bookshops, 2 art stores, um, services that were provided, IT services, consultation services. So we had student rights, but we also did student rights for another campus, and then we charged them a fee for it. We had
So proper
F&B.
business,
Yeah, proper business run by
students.
grown-ups. Not run by paid professionals, managers,
Okay. Yep.
and everything, but owned by the students.
Wow.
Um, so my role there was really being responsible and taking care of it, setting the strategy and so on. So we at its peak, I remember we had a general manager, and he was running things, but he had to report to us, give us budgets, and we set the strategy and so on. So it was a really big deal, and for the students involved, it was extremely rewarding. Um,
In your
we're all,
20s.
yeah, in our 20s. Some of them were even younger than me. Of course, the campus where I've at, there was a lot of like business and commerce students. So we were more drawn to this sort of thing. And the experience that we got from that, some of us, it's followed us throughout our careers as well. Yeah, yeah, very valuable experience.
Yeah. So that's your first volunteering that you did in Australia?
In Australia, yes. And of course, I started by joining the student association. How I joined was really random as well. I was walking. It was like I think second week of university. First week of classes after orientation and so on. And I saw a poster. They were looking for someone who was international student in their first year, just as a representative to share their views and so on. And at that point, I knew people, but not on campus. I didn't really have any friends. So I thought, let's just do this. Might be fun. And then next thing I knew, I was they had called me out for a chat and said, yep, we'd love for you to join us. And then that was my second week in uni. So and the rest is history.
Yeah. So what got you attracted to volunteering, Param?
I didn't. It wasn't the concept of volunteering really. It was from quite young. I always had this idea that if you wanted change, or be the change that you want to see. So if I want to change something, I will get involved. And it's about, I always enjoyed getting involved in things that I can be good at. So in terms of this, this example, it was about, if I can make life better for students, I can make life better for myself as well. But it wasn't even such a grand, picture. It was about getting involved, doing something, making a difference during my free time. I had free time anyway, and quite often we always think of it as what you need to devote to it. You don't really think of what you get out of it. So for me, I think I was quite lucky in that I was thinking about it from that way itself. I was like, I'll join this to make friends, and yeah, sure, I'll have to do some things on the side. And so really that thinking has really followed me around. And some other community groups that I joined, it was all about getting involved in the community, finding my place in the community. It wasn't so much about what I was doing. I know it's going to be fun anyway, and it of course it's a lot easier when you've got a lot of spare time on your hands, when you're a new student and you don't really know anyone, you've got no real commitments. Yeah.
And great, as you said, great place to make friends. As a newcomer into the country, all of us migrants, we go through not knowing anyone, and then we are trying to make friends, finding people who are like us or who we think are like us. And some stay, some don't, but for those 3 years or 4 years or whatever time we are there as international students, it works for us.
Yeah, that's it. And I find that if you try to do that in a work setting, there's a lot of rules. People are trying to earn some money, so quite often they're not being the most honest version of themselves. But volunteering, everyone's there by choice. Like 90% of the time there are some people there for an agenda, but quite often you get to meet people, and they're as honest as they can be, and so are you. So it's a pleasant environment.
Yeah. So Param, what would you say was your highlight and biggest achievement while you were with the O group? What does the O stand for in the first place?
Well, it's a long story. It's all when we had this whole branding exercise and so on. The member organizations were named Monsu, and the logo had a big O in the middle, and so we just carried that O forward and aimed it. So it wasn't, it didn't really stand for anything. It was all, but the reason for that O in the Monsus was about it going a full circle. Going a full circle, doing things for the students, investing that money, and things coming back to benefit the student population and so on. So it was about that cycle. So that's where I guess that originated from.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say was your biggest achievement while you were there?
Um, I think for me, it was a couple of things. From a dollars and cents perspective, we went through a big revamp. It wasn't an easy process, especially for me being a young student, having to discuss with the general manager that we needed to reorganize this thing. He was extremely supportive, did a lot of the legwork, most of it actually, but just being the ultimate person responsible, being the chairperson, that was challenging. But what we did was we reorganized all the businesses, made it more streamlined, so that we were saving a lot more money. There were a lot of um, we weren't getting the best value from our operating cost that we
Yeah.
could have, and so we revamped all of that. It was about a 6 to 8 month exercise, big change management piece, but it was done. So I feel that was one in terms of it had a lasting legacy even after I left. If things are being done in a more organized manner, then your returns are higher, and that's going to continue on. Um, the other thing is I was the first international student to be a president of that
Oh,
organization, as well as the member organization. So I actually took a bit of time out of my study to do that. In and I think it was inspiring for a lot of people. It still is. Some of my colleagues still bring it up when they're talking to students, like, and it's a little bit embarrassing sometimes, but
how
I'm glad it inspires younger
beautiful.
students, like you can do this too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them come in and they get overwhelmed by the whole idea. I'm an international student, I don't have much of a say here, and so on. But like, hey, you know what? I did it. And the fact, a lot of people think that domestic students aren't that welcoming. Um, in that group, I was an international student leading a committee filled with domestic students. They were, very supportive, very respectful of my decisions. And we didn't have that. There was no international domestic student nonsense. Obviously, we had different points of view and
Mm.
and that sort of thing. But I think sometimes just doing that itself was an achievement. I remember speaking with a senior academic when I was in my second or third year, and he's like, in being honest, he's like, you're not going to be able to do this, and I said, I can, and so I met him a few years later, and he's like, yeah, you did it, and
What a
um,
lovely thing.
yeah, it was. And all those people who thought it couldn't be done weren't actually against it. They just thought it would be too much of a burden, but they were still very supportive during that process. So yeah, very thankful that I was able to do that. And I think
And all
that,
of it counts, isn't it? Like you said, that sets you up in the sense you
yeah,
use that every day at work now.
yeah, every day. um it it's not something I set out to do. Like I said, what I wanted to do
Yeah.
was make some friends in second week of uni, and
Well,
things
well,
happen.
you
Yeah.
never know what comes your way. Well, we have a
Yeah,
comment from Sarasnathan. I'm guessing
that's
your
my
mom.
mom. Yeah,
Yeah. She's
yeah, yeah. She's in Singapore, and I told her we'll be doing this, so
yeah.
she said she'll try to tune
Thank
in
you
if
for
she has some.
watching, Mrs. Nathan. Yes, how beautiful. Watching her son live from Singapore. Um, so now you are on the board of Monash Community Family Cooperative Limited, right?
Yes, yes,
What
yeah,
is this organization?
yeah.
And then I'll ask you more once you tell me what it is.
Sure. So this organization is a community-owned childcare center, um, located in Southeast Melbourne, just outside of Monash University. Main purpose is to serve
Oh, just
the
outside of Monash University.
just outside of Monash University. The main purpose is to serve staff who have children, and community members in that area who have children as well. So really, essentially, it's
Sorry,
a
is this Clayton or is this
Clayton,
Caulfield?
Clayton,
Clayton?
Clayton.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, it's a childcare center. Yeah, a very good one at that too.
Okay. Your mom says she's very proud of you. Um, so why childcare and why the board?
Well, my kids, I put my kids in childcare, and I wanted them to be close to me because twins, and they went in.
Oh, your hands
Uh,
are full.
yeah, yeah. And uh, I wanted them to be close to where I work, so we put them at that center, and it was rated really highly as well. So, and I had a few friends who had put their children there, and they were really happy with it. So, once my kids were in there, I met a few people there, and they said, again, similar story. We're looking for, we've got some vacancies for directors. Anyone interested? And I said, sure. I'm a seasoned director. Count me in. So went through that application process, and they were happy to have me on board. And so it was really because I had put my children in there. I wasn't seeking to get involved in the childcare industry or anything of that sort. Again, it was just finding your community, being involved in where you can be. And I thought, given my experience, I could make a difference there. Yeah, that was mainly the reason.
Are you the only man there? Because we don't often see men in childcare settings. It is changing.
Yeah,
I know there are
yeah,
there are men who are who are educators in childcare
yeah,
settings, but is it?
yeah. No, you don't see many educators. Um, but on the board, I've got my colleague, fantastic. He's a academic in in that accounting space, and he's our treasurer. So, but generally, it's overwhelmingly a very female oriented environment.
Yes, it is.
But I think it's changing. It's changing. I always see a lot of dads doing the drop offs. Sometimes even more dads than moms. Um, so I think it's an evolving space.
So, what are you bringing to this organization?
Really, my one is my experience in board management. Secondly, um, I have worked in the university for quite some time now, over 12 years, and 11 years, and I've got a good network there. So when it comes to promoting the place to new students who want to put their children there or other staff, I've got really good connections. I'm also really aware of how things work and what should be done when, and it's a lot more about that strategy and how do we proceed and so on. So the people who work in the center, they are experts at what they do, um, and but they're not necessarily experts in strategy or management or
Yep,
finance,
yep.
that sort of thing. So our current chairperson, she's got a law background. We've got someone with a finance background, and they've got people like myself who have done a lot of management. And so all these different experiences is really what you need to run any organization.
Yes, and it's good to have people with varied experiences on the board, isn't it?
Exactly. I in any team I set up, I don't want people who have all the same experience.
Yes.
It's never the best outcome. You want some variety in skills and so on.
I'm going to, so you said it's a community childcare organization, right? A community childcare, and
That's
it is for people living around the Clayton area or they're around the area. And
it's
what does
not
community
yeah
childcare mean?
yeah it's not exclusive to that. That's what the center aims to do, is to provide a service for those people. And I say community because this center is really owned by the members. So every family that joins, um, you know, buys into the center, and it's owned by the members. It's not a private corporation. It's not profit motivated. at the same time, it's not owned by the government. So really, it's just owned by the community
Oh,
that
okay.
owns it. Yeah.
So this is basically, for new parents like my
Mhm.
daughter.
Mm.
We all, in today's day and age, with the cost of living hitting the roof and the budget not doing anything for us, basically, you need a two-income family is uh, is a necessity, right? And so, from a very young age, we do send our children to childcare. What would you like to say to young parents who are still hesitant about sending their 6 month old, you know 8 month old, even a year old child to a childcare? Because for many this is the only option that we have. Many young people, like, what about international students who come? you know they
Yeah.
they they don't have the option of family to take care of their children. And even if they have spouses, so a partner's coming with them, they don't have this
Mhm.
option. They still, both of them need to work because everything is just so expensive. So
Yeah.
how do you promote this to young families?
I'd say go in and have a look. When you're planning for a family, go in, do all the childcare tours. A lot of them are very happy to do the tours. Look at what they can do for you. Are you comfortable with the place? And as you said, it's become a necessity. It's never easy saying, all right, I'm ready to send my kids to childcare. I remember my wife being really hesitant. She knew this was the
Yeah.
logical, progression and so on, but we were both quite reluctant.
And for
Uh,
many of us, it's the only option, especially if you don't want, you don't have family. What do you do?
yeah,
You have to.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, it's also one of the reasons why I was a bit more motivated to send the kids to a childcare near where I work. So I'd suggest, look for something that you can. A lot of people tell me sometimes I found something close to home. Well, if you're going to be home, that's great. But if you're going to be at work, then you want to find something close to your workplace because
Yep.
if something happens, you want to get there quickly.
Yep.
So again, I wanted to because I speak to a lot of parents and they're like, I'm going to be this protective parents, I'm going to do this, and they're all the stereotypes. So this is my way of being protective. Um, I'll keep them close to me, and I'll also get involved in the organization because, then I know exactly what's happening there as well. So, um,
It's a very smart decision, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought like that because you're correct. You need to have your children in a childcare that's close to your work.
yes, yes.
Uh,
And it's not something that I figured out on my own. I had a staff member who told me that, and she used to live out in Berwick. And when her,
yep,
one day, she had to go and pick her kid up after school, and there was a big jam on the M1,
yep,
and it was an accident and so on, and it took her more than an hour to get there,
yep,
and
yeah,
and
I can
they were
imagine.
ringing her, and she broke down. She said she was in the car and she was just crying because there was no way there was nothing she could do, and to the extent where they said, you got to get here now. And so I said, let's just avoid all of that. um yeah. So that's something. Go familiarize yourself with the place, and look around, find something you're comfortable with. Everyone's in, there's no one size fits all model.
No, there
Yeah.
isn't. There isn't. Thank you, Param. It's been lovely chatting with you. And thank you,
Likewise.
Mrs. Nathan, for watching us. Uh, and I think I'll see you next month at the rack. Is it next month or is it July? I've forgotten the
I
date,
think it's
but
July.
whichever
It's
date.
July here.
Yeah. In the meantime, enjoy your trip to Vietnam and India.
Yeah,
And
I sure
thank you
will.
again for joining me.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Bye.